The NBA playoffs continue tonight on Friday, May the 10th. Two more games. I'm going to break them both down for you in full detailed. Knicks, Pacers, Game 3, and also Nuggets, Timberwolves, Game 3. Game 3s have begun. In the second round, I've got your side total, player prop analysis, everything, a deep dive for free here in just a moment. Let's start with that early game at 7 Eastern Friday night. Knicks and Pacers. You know, Indiana's down 0-2, but they've had a chance to win both games. It reminds me a lot of the last series in which Philadelphia was down 0-2 after going to New York, but they led both games, had halftime leads, could have very well been up 2-0, 1-1 at worst, but Philly was down 0-2. But then again, Philly came back and won Game 3 and covered at home, and I think it's a very similar spot here for the Pacers in Game 3. And the odds makers are saying the same thing. Lined open 5.5 and was quickly bet up to 7.5 on Thursday afternoon. Now, part of the reason is we do have a possibly big injury in this game. OG Anunoby, of course, left in the third quarter with the hamstring. He did not return in Game 2 the other night, and he was having a fantastic game, maybe his best offensive game at least of the playoffs so far. And even in the limited minutes, in just 27.5 minutes, he had 28 points and a plus 10 plus minus rating. He's an extremely important player. You know, New York's season really turned at the beginning of the calendar year when they made that 2-for-1 trade with Toronto to get him. And going back to January 1st, when Anunoby's been in the lineup, they're now 28-8 straight up, including 6-2 straight up this postseason, and it's not a fluke. I run plus-minus numbers per 100 possessions on all these key players, and it really jumps out to you when you see how much better the Knicks have been with OG in the lineup. Now, it's a small sample size. He's only played about 20% of the minutes overall for the whole season, but it's still really eye-shattering when you look at the numbers. This is based on per 100 possessions, a little bit more than a full game, but it's just a good math number to work with. With Anunoby on the court, they're plus 22 points per 100 possessions. When he's off the court, they're even, and that's for the overall season. Offense and defensive numbers jump out at you as well. They're 7 points better per 100 with him offensively, but here's the big difference. 14.5 points better per 100 possessions defensively when he is on the court. Overall, that's a 20% edge, plus 21.5 points when he is on versus off per 100 possessions. There's really nobody else in the NBA that jumps out to you like that. Now, once again, it's a fairly small sample size because he's played less than half a season with them, and we've also had different lineups at times with and without. But still, 28-8 straight up since January 1st when he plays, 6-2 in the playoffs, and he is questionable. He did not return with that hamstring injury, a lot of uncertainty, and that's why we've seen this line go higher. And that's going to put even more pressure on the Villanova trio that we've been talking about in these games, as once again, you know, it's really been a three-man offensive lineup at least. Obviously, Anunoby had an offensive impact there in Game 2 before he went out, but still, Hart, DiVincenzo, and Brunson, the Villanova three, have been carrying the load. And Brunson, don't forget, went out with injury in the end of the first quarter. He missed the whole second quarter there in Game number 2 on Wednesday night, and he still finished with a solid 29 points, 11 for 18 shooting. One of the few times, though, Brunson did not get over his point total. You know, I mentioned he was due to regress. Didn't think it'd be because of injury, though. He, of course, became only the 4th player in NBA playoff history to have 40 straight points in 4 straight games, and he had 39 the 5 games ago before that. Ended up with just 29, stayed under 37.5. Now he's at 35.5. If he's not fully healthy, that could be a huge concern, especially if OG doesn't go. But once again, I'm not looking to fade Brunson anytime soon. He is a true superstar. I'd probably just stay away from his player props for that reason. Another guy we've been talking a lot about, obviously, that's been having huge games is Josh Hart. He is getting more looks, getting more shot attempts than early in the season, so his numbers are higher, and he once again went over. In fact, he has gone over every playoff game but one. He has gone over the points in 7 of the 8 playoff games. He finished with 19. He was at 16.5. He's once again priced at just 16.5. And he has had 16 or more in 7 of the 8 playoff games. So although I do think Hart and Brunson at some point have to regress, I just don't know if the odds makers have priced it correctly yet. So I'd be careful there. We've talked about Hartenstein also in recent videos. Mitchell Robinson is out for the rest of the season. That means Hartenstein's going to see more touches and minutes. That's definitely how Game 2 played out. He had 39 minutes, 5 for 7 shooting, got to 14 points. His prop was 11.5. That's the highest it had been in the playoffs. It had been 9.5 or less every other game. It's still 11.5. He has now had 13 or more in 3 straight games, 13 or more now in 5 of the last 7 playoff games. So all these guys are due to regress, but once again, they have so few options now that they just have to keep scoring for New York to get there. And keep in mind also, another thing that helps the overprops of the Knicks is that Indiana is a bad defensive team that likes to play fast. So it's really hard to play any of these guys under, even though I do think they're due to regress. Once again, though, they're getting very thin with injury. Mitchell Robinson out, Brunson banged up, Anunoby is questionable. Does look like a good bounce-back spot for the Pacers. So the question becomes, do we play them first half? Do we play them full game? As you all know, teams down 0-2 returning home in Game 3 have been a strong play over the years. I mentioned how Philly got the win and cover against New York in Game 3 the other week. Keep in mind, though, Philly was actually trailing at the half in that game. That's why we used them full game only. I do think Indiana full game is the best option here, but I definitely wouldn't disagree with the first half either. But you're paying a premium. It's 5 minus 15, even 5.5 now in some spots where the full game line is only 7, 7.5. So you're getting a little bit of a discount with the full game. And I do expect Indiana to strut fast. So you can even look at the first quarter. That line is -3. So it's -3 first quarter, -5, 5.5 first half, -7, 7.5 full game. Does look like a good bounce back spot for Indiana. And as I've said, it's not like they've been getting dominated in this series. They blew a 9-point lead in Game 1, and they blew a 12-point lead there in Game 2, including a 10-point lead at halftime when Brunson was injured. I expect Indiana to come out. As far as the total goes, it's tricky. We had a strong best bet in Game 1, as I thought it would be high scoring, and it was. I stayed off the total in Game 2. I mentioned, though, my rescore for Game 1 came out right to 217, which is right around this total. And the pace, once again, wasn't necessarily as fast as the 251 points would make you think, but both teams just shot lights out in Game 2, 57 and 52%. Both were 47 and 44 from three-point range. That was the case in Game 1. Both teams have shot over 52% in every one of the playoff games so far in this series. But the pace has pretty much been where this total is priced now, but it's still a good 20 points lower than the regular season meetings. And once again, Indiana loves to play fast, and they are at home, and we've seen this total now be bumped up to 222.5 from the 218 in Games 1 and 2. Also, it opened 225.5, so it's down to 222.5 with the injury report. But once again, as I mentioned, the Knicks have been much weaker defensively without OG Anunoby in the lineup. So I don't quite understand why the total went down if they're worried about his injury. If anything, that's going to make it a higher scoring game. So Indiana team total might be a good way to play this. I'd wait till tip-off if you're looking at the totals, though. See if OG is in the lineup, even an in-game line. You know, the beauty of in-game betting is you can watch the game start, see who's playing, see how they're moving, look if Brunson is hobbled, if OG is playing or not, and then, pull the trigger with maybe a Pacers team total over in-game. Pre-game here, the team total is around 115 for Indiana. I like Pacers team total over here in Game 3, 7 Eastern for you tonight on Friday. All right, we're going to look at your other game here in just a moment for Friday night. Just a quick reminder, we're going to get to that Mavericks Thunder. Going to get to the Timberwolves Nuggets Game 3. Mavericks Thunder is Saturday. A little foreshadowing. By the way, I will have a video for that along with Cavaliers Celtics Game 3 because I am doing every NBA game every day here on the channel, as you know. If you're finding it useful, do me a couple favors. First of all, thumbs up like. Takes half a second. That's why we have free content here. Thumbs up likes go a long way to keeping this content plentiful and free. Please take the half a second to do a thumbs up like if you didn't already. And comment below if you have a minute. Take a minute to comment below because I read all the comments and I reply back. I'd like to give you all topics. And by the way, great comments on yesterday's Thursday video. I asked when people watch it. Do you like it early? Do you watch it going to work? A lot of great feedback. Really love hearing from you because I've gotten to know a lot of you. A lot of regular viewers. I feel like we're a family here on WagerTalk TV. But here's my question for you for this Friday video. Rick Carlisle mentioned this in postgame. He said they're not getting the calls because the NBA wants a big market team like New York to advance. What are your thoughts? I joke a little bit about the NBA. I don't think it's fixed. It's rigged. I don't go that far. But I do think the officials get some marching orders. They get a review after the games on maybe some calls that should be enforced more. And that's how the NBA can kind of nudge which way they want particular games to go. And while maybe they want the Knicks to advance, I don't think they want a 4-0 sweep. They want extra games. They don't want games without TV, days without NBA games here coming up. So another reason why I think it's a good bounce-back spot for the Pacers. But what are your thoughts on Carlisle's comment? I think he said there's been over 70 missed foul calls in the first 2 games. That seems a little extreme to me, but do you think there's a bias towards the Knicks? I do think there's a superstar bias, and Brunson has become a superstar. He's getting calls. LeBron, Jordan, they've all gotten calls over the years as well. What are your thoughts on the officiating? Conspiracy, no conspiracy? Do you think there's a little bit of a nudge by the league? That's kind of where I stand. And how do you think it'll play out here this weekend in these games, including tonight on Friday? Comment below. I do read all the comments and I reply back. Love the support here. thumbs up, like, and don't forget, hit subscribe and click the bell so you know instantly when these videos go up each and every day here on the channel, and you never miss one of my daily NBA playoff previews or the free baseball videos that I do quite often throughout the week. I also post free baseball plays basically every day on my website, stevemerril.wagertalk.com. Check out the daily free plays, mostly baseball this time of the year. I did have a free NBA play Thursday night for you. Once again, they're games that are just a bit outside from making the cut. And then if you want my official client best bets, they're on the page as well. In fact, I have 3 strong NBA playoff best bets for tonight on Friday. Each game is $25, or get all 3 for $29. You get the second and third play for just $2 each. A powerful, a deep 3-for-1 card. Probably the deepest NBA playoff card I'll have the rest of the season, because we only have 1 or 2 games a day, and I've got 3 best bets going tonight alone on Friday. Might want to consider the rest of the playoffs for just $115, or maybe that 7 days get 11 all sports special, which gets you baseball and basketball. Buy 7, get 11, works out to just $9 a day. That's about $3 a play. No promo codes needed. Check it out right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker. WT.buzz/SM. All right, let's look at Game 3 now in the other series in the West. You know, I joked that they played the first 2 games in the Denver-Minnesota series before Boston or OKC had even started their game round 2 series. But now everyone is catching up. They gave Denver and Minnesota an extra day off. And the T-Wolves return home now with, I guess we could say, a surprising 2-0 lead. You know, I mentioned in Game 1 that I thought the situation favored Denver, but the line was too high. Minnesota came out and won. Thought the situation definitely favored Denver in Game 2, and I was surprised to see them get blown out. Gobert missed because his first child was being born with his girlfriend. He did not go to the game, did not play. It did not matter that the Defensive Player of the Year was not there, as Minnesota won easily by what was it, 26 points in that game, 106-80. And just dominated them from the start. You know, they had an 18-4 lead in the first game, in the first quarter, yet Denver stormed back to take the 44-40 lead at halftime. Well, this time Denver got down by 26 in the first half, and they could not come back. Played the second half even, of course, but it didn't matter. A couple things jumped out to you in the box score. Denver shot just 30% from three-point range. They got outscored by 12 from 3, so it wasn't that much of a difference. And, of course, Denver actually had the lead plus 6 from three-point range in Game 1 and still lost that one by 7. So definitely some concerns if you're a Denver Nugget follower. With that said, though, they are still the defending world champs. They have arguably the best player in the league in Jokic. And if they're going to bounce back, this is the spot. And the difference here between Indiana bouncing back down 0-2, Pacers not only have to win, but they have to win almost by double digits. Denver could theoretically lose here, and they'd still cover because they are an underdog. So it's a pretty big line adjustment. I definitely think there's some recency bias here. Line open 4, now it's up to 4.5. So if the Nuggets are going to bounce back, they have to get this game. If they're really the defending world champs, they will get it. And I don't think much has changed. This is the same lineup from last year. And yes, Minnesota maybe matches up well. And the officiating comes back too. It's been a bit of a football game out there. And once again, can't imagine that the NBA doesn't want this to go 6 or 7 games. Also, not so sure they want Minnesota in the conference finals. They're not a big market either, although I hedge that a bit with Anthony Edwards. He's the new superstar, at least this month. Brunson and Edwards taking over. So I think the league would be okay with Minnesota there instead of Denver. But once again, I think there's going to be a memo saying, hey, watch some of the fouls. There's been a big discrepancy so far. And I think Denver, even though they're the road team, are going to get more foul calls in this game. Now, they've gotten more foul calls in the first 2 games, and Denver normally doesn't go to the line much. You know, in that Lakers series, the Lakers got the majority of the calls. But I think they're going to get more than average here. So I think they will have the benefit of the whistle. That'll probably favor Jokic, by the way, if we're looking at player props. Hard to envision a game in which Denver bounces back without Jokic having a monster game. Only had 16 points also in Game 2 the other night. He had 16 rebounds, so he got the double-double. And I mentioned, of course, how he didn't do a lot in Game 1. Didn't even have a double-double, which is almost unheard of. He's usually like 80% double-double. He had 32, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. So he is definitely due. I think this could be a time to pull the triple-double prop. The problem, though, as I mentioned, playing Knicks props under is tough because Indiana's defense is suspect. Well, playing anybody over for Denver is tough because the T-Wolves are the best defensive team in the NBA this season. But once again, back home up 2-0, wouldn't be shocked, especially that extra day off, that maybe a little bit of complacency kicks in. So that could be good for the Nuggets, and you got to look for a big game from Jokic if it does play out that way. Aaron Gordon had a big game, surprisingly 20 points. Didn't see him being the leading scorer, and Jokic having only 16, but that's what happens when you get blown out. Weird things like that happen. As far as Minnesota and their player props, Karl Anthony Towns, a big game along with Edwards. Once again, they each had 27 points, and they took 32 of the 84 field goal attempts. in game number 2. And that was really not a surprise, as game number 1, the two of them had 63 combined points, and they took 42 of the 82 shot attempts. So once again, it's going to go through Towns and Edwards. If you think that maybe Denver gets a game here, might be the time to fade one of them under. Obviously, there's a lot of recency bias, especially with Edwards getting so much hype. But kind of like Brunson, I'm not in a hurry to fade any superstar under. I just kind of stay neutral on those and stay away from them. Other guys, McDaniels, I mentioned in game 1, was 0 for 7, no points. Thought maybe he would bounce back. Well, he was just 2 for 7, 5 points in game number 2. So even though I lean Denver here for a bounce back spot, I do think Jaden McDaniels could have a bounce back game. He's been priced at 9.5 now for 4 straight games. He had 18, but he's had 5 or less in the other 3. I do think he's due for a better outing. So actually, Jaden McDaniels is a little bit of an under-the-radar player prop that could go over 8.5. Actually, he's 8.5. He's 9.5 some spots. He's been bumped down to 8.5. So I do think Jaden McDaniels now has a little bit of value with his over if you're looking for a bit of the off-the-beaten-path player prop to talk about here in game number 3. As far as the total, tough to take too much away from game 2 with the blowout once again, because it's not a real game when it's a 26-point margin at halftime. But Denver shot really poor, just 35% from the field, only 30 from 3, as I mentioned. I do look for a much better offensive performance, and although they're facing a great Minnesota defense, I think the Nuggets team total could be worth a look. So both teams down 0-2, Pacers and Nuggets. I think their team totals are worth a look, and Denver's is very reasonable, 100. Whew. Asking the defending world champs with the best player in the league to score just 100 points, sign me up. I like the Nuggets team total over 100 here in game number 3. Hey, hope you found this useful. I'm doing this deep dive each and every day of the playoffs, every game, every day, the entire postseason. We've done every one. We'll continue to do so if you're finding it useful. So let me know if you're finding it useful. Take 30 seconds, comment below, say, Steve, keep the videos going. Let me know when you watch them, because we're adding graphics, but we're also trying to get them up nice and early for you so you can get the information and use it as soon as possible. So once again, please comment below. I do truly read each and every comment, and I reply back to most of them. It's tough when there's several hundred comments. You all are testing me, but I love the test. I love the challenge. Keep it coming. Comment below. I read them all, and I will reply back. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for instant alerts so you know when this video goes up each and every day, and you can be the first to watch and comment. And don't forget, if you want my personal best bets for Friday night, this is the strongest and deepest card I'll probably have the rest of the playoffs, as I have 3 best bets going tonight on Friday in the NBA. Don't miss out. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and check out the free daily plays. A lot of free baseball plays every day. Rest of the playoffs for $115, or you can get that 7, buy 7, get 11 for just $99. That works out to $9 a day for baseball and basketball. We also have a baseball special for the next couple months through the All-Star break for just $4 a day, or the best option if you want the rest of the playoffs, the rest of baseball, next year's regular season into the playoffs, next year's baseball into a couple months, the entire college basketball season next year, the entire college football and pro football seasons coming up. Then get the 365-day special. It's on my page every day. You'll see it on the right-hand side. But I've got a promo code which saves you $800, SM365. That works out to just $3 a day, about $1 a play for the next 365 days and nights. So if you're thinking about the All Sports, the one-year investment, that is the serious, consistent investment approach. Make sure you use the promo code SM365 for an instant $800 discount. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut wt.buzz/SM. Follow me on Twitter and X at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L, at Steve Merril on Twitter and X. And I also post free plays throughout the week on Instagram. Follow me on IG with WagerTalk. And be sure to stay tuned right here to WagerTalk TV for more great baseball and basketball previews coming up next.